The stars looked the same as they always had. Commander Daehoon stood on the bridge of his survey ship, watching the endless darkness of space through the viewing screen. He had been doing this job for 12 years now, patrolling the outer edges of known space, making sure nothing dangerous crossed into Confederation territory. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. "Sir, we're approaching Sector 7 Terra," his navigator called out. The young officer's voice carried a hint of nervousness. Everyone knew about Sector 7 Terra. It was the forbidden zone, the place where no ship was allowed to go. Daehoon nodded. "Run the standard checks on the warning buoys. Make sure they're still broadcasting." The warning buoys had been there for as long as anyone could remember. They floated in space around the entire sector, broadcasting messages in languages so old that nobody could read them anymore. Every species in the galaxy had stories about Sector 7 Terra. Some said it was haunted. Others claimed a terrible weapon was hidden there. The Confederation had made it simple: stay away, ask no questions, and live a long life. Minji, the ship's science officer, frowned at her console. She was young and brilliant, always curious about things she shouldn't be curious about. "Commander, I'm not getting any readings from the buoys. Run a diagnostic. Your equipment probably needs recalibration." "I already did, sir. 3 times. Minji looked up, her eyes wide. "The buoys aren't malfunctioning. They're just silent. All of them." Daehoon felt a chill run down his spine. In 10,000 years of recorded history, the warning buoys had never gone silent. Never. "Are you absolutely certain?" "Yes, sir. Whatever was powering them has stopped." The veteran pilot Hyun-woo whistled low. "So what do we do? Report it and head back?" Daehoon should have said yes. Protocol was clear. Observe, report, retreat. But something nagged at him. The buoys going silent wasn't just unusual. It was impossible. And if something impossible was happening, shouldn't someone investigate? "We're going in," he said quietly. "Just to the edge. A quick look, then we report what we find." The crew exchanged nervous glances, but nobody argued. They trusted Daehoon, and maybe they were curious too. Hyun-woo guided the ship forward, crossing the invisible line where the warning buoys had once stood guard. Nothing happened. No alarms, no weapons fire, no mysterious force pulling them in. Just empty space and distant stars. "There's a star system ahead," Minji reported. "One yellow star, multiple planets. The 3rd planet from the sun is showing. Wait, that can't be right. What is it?" "Life signs. Massive electromagnetic activity. And structures in orbit that are bigger than anything I've ever seen." Minji's fingers flew across her console. "Commander, someone built an entire civilization here. The orbital platforms alone could house billions." Daehoon stared at the readings. The planet was beautiful, a blue and green marble hanging in space. White clouds swirled across its surface. It looked peaceful, almost inviting. But the technology surrounding it was anything but primitive. The orbital structures were connected by massive cables that seemed to stretch thousands of kilometers. Energy readings were off the charts. Why would anyone build something like this and, then, hide it? Hyun-woo wondered aloud. "Maybe they didn't hide it," Minji said softly. "Maybe someone else put up those warning buoys to keep people out. Or to keep something in," Daehoon muttered. They moved closer, scanning everything. The debris fields told a story of ancient battles. Destroyed ships floated in the void, their designs unlike anything in Confederation records. Some of the wrecks were so large they had their own gravity. Whatever civilization had built them possessed technology far beyond current understanding. "The planet is dormant," Minji reported. All those structures are in some kind of standby mode. It's like everything is sleeping. Can you detect any active threats? No, sir. Everything is passive. But, the power reserves are incredible. If these systems activated, they could light up half the sector. Daehoon made his decision. Send a priority transmission back to Confederation Command. Tell them what we found. Include all sensor data. Already done, sir. But, we won't get a response for at least 6 hours at this distance. That's when everything changed. The ship's console lit up with warnings. Every system locked down simultaneously. Hyunwoo grabbed the controls, but nothing responded. Sir, we've lost helm control. I can't move the ship. Something's scanning us, Minji said, her voice tight with fear. It's not aggressive, but it's incredibly thorough. It's reading everything. Our databases, our technology, even our biological signatures. Daehoon forced himself to stay calm. Can you block it? No, sir. It's like trying to stop water with a net. This technology is centuries ahead of ours. Then, the view screen flickered. Static danced across it for a moment before clearing. A voice spoke, and, though it came through in perfect Confederation standard, something about it felt wrong. Old. Like the translation had been pieced together from their own databases. Quarantine protocol suspended. Hibernation cycle complete. Identity confirmed, Galactic Confederation survey vessel. Threat assessment, minimal. Welcome to Earth. Earth. The name meant nothing to Daehoon. He had never heard of any species called humans or any planet called Earth. But, whoever they were, they had been waiting here all along. This is Commander Daehoon of the Confederation Survey Fleet, he said, hoping his voice sounded steadier than he felt. We mean no harm. We're simply investigating why the warning buoys went silent. Acknowledged. The buoys served their purpose. The agreed-upon isolation period has concluded. Stand by for further instructions. Isolation period? Who agreed to what? But, the voice didn't answer. Instead, the planet below began to change. Lights flickered on across entire continents, spreading like fire. The orbital structures hummed to life, energy coursing through them. And, from beneath the planet's oceans, massive platforms began to rise, shedding water like rain. Sir, Minji whispered. Those platforms. They're weapons. Defensive installations the size of cities. Hyunwoo pointed at the view screen. And, those? Ships were launching from the planet's surface. Hundreds, then, thousands of them. They moved with precision and purpose, forming up into defensive formations around the orbital structures. Each ship bore the same symbol, a blue planet cradled gently in two hands. Daehoon watched the display with growing dread. Whatever had been sleeping here was waking up. And, the galaxy had no idea what was coming. Log everything, he ordered. Every detail. Confederation Command needs to know about this. But, even as he spoke, he wondered if knowing would be enough. The technology on display was staggering. If this civilization was hostile, the Confederation wouldn't stand a chance. The voice returned, calm and patient. Do not be alarmed. You are in no danger. We are humanity. We have been waiting a very long time. And, now, we have work to do. Captain Jaiwan opened her eyes and saw white. Pure, clinical white that hurt to look at. Her body felt heavy, like she was wearing armor made of lead. Every muscle ached. Her mouth was dry, and her thoughts moved slowly, like swimming through mud. Welcome back, Captain. A synthetic voice spoke from somewhere above her. You have been in cryogenic suspension for 10,047 years. Please remain still while the revival process completes. 10,000 years. The number was so large it almost didn't mean anything. Jaiwen's memory slowly returned. She remembered the debates, the protests, the final vote. Humanity had made a choice that no other species in history had ever made. They had chosen to leave. The suspension pod opened with a hiss of releasing pressure. Jaiwen sat up slowly, fighting waves of dizziness. Around her, thousands of other pods were opening. Men and women emerged, all wearing the same confused expressions, all trying to remember who they were and why they were here. Status report, Jaiwen croaked, her voice rough from disuse. Defense Station Omega is operating at full capacity, the computer replied. All primary systems are online. Population revival is proceeding according to schedule. Estimated time until all personnel are awake, 72 hours. Jaiwen stood on shaky legs and walked to the nearest window. Outside, the earth stretched below her, beautiful and blue. Cities covered the continents, but they looked different now. Cleaner. The scars of old wars had healed. The planet had rested well during humanity's long sleep. Show me the galaxy status. Holographic displays flickered to life around her. Data streamed past, showing star maps, trade routes, and political boundaries. 7 species had formed something called the Overlord Confederation. They controlled most of known space, living in relative peace and prosperity. Good, Jaiwen murmured. The plan worked. But, then, another display caught her attention. Deep space sensors, machines that humanity had left running while they slept, showed something else. At the far edge of the galaxy, a massive fleet was gathering. The sensors counted over 1 billion ships, all moving in perfect coordination. Computer, identify that fleet. Unknown species. Designating as hostile based on movement patterns and fleet composition. Analysis suggests a hive mind structure. No attempts at communication detected. Estimated time until contact with Confederation space, 6 months. Jaiwen's blood ran cold. This was why they had set the alarm. This was why they had slept with one eye open. They had known something like this might come. The galaxy had needed time to grow strong, but it also needed guardians. Humanity had chosen to be both the sword and the shield. Wake everyone. Priority Alpha. And, someone get me a comm link to Earth Command. On Daehoon's captured ship, the crew watched the planet transform before their eyes. Hyun-woo kept trying to regain control of the systems, but it was useless. Whatever was controlling their ship had complete dominance over their technology. They could destroy us any time they wanted, Minji said quietly. But, they're not. They're just keeping us here. Maybe they want witnesses, Daehoon replied. Maybe they want us to see this and report back. More ships continued to launch from Earth's surface. They moved with purpose and precision that spoke of long planning and preparation. Each one was different, designed for specific roles. Some were massive carriers that could hold entire fleets. Others were sleek destroyers built for speed. And, the largest vessels were dreadnoughts, ships so big they seemed to bend space around them. Sir, I'm picking up communications, Minji said. Thousands of channels, all in that same language. They're coordinating their launch patterns. It's like watching a dance. Everything is timed perfectly. Then, a new ship approached them. It was smaller than the others, designed for speed rather than combat. It pulled alongside their vessel and transmitted a docking request. Should we accept? Hyun-woo asked. I don't think we have a choice, Daehoon replied. Accept the docking request. The airlock opened, and a woman stepped through. She was tall and moved with the confidence of a soldier. Her uniform was dark blue with silver trim, and symbols Daehoon didn't recognize decorated her shoulders. But, what struck him most were her eyes. They were kind, but they had seen things. Terrible things. "Commander Daehoon," she said in perfect Confederation standard. "I am Captain Jaiwan of Earth Defense Station Omega. I apologize for the rough welcome. We don't get many visitors." "Who are you people?" Daehoon asked. "What is this place?" Jaiwan smiled sadly. "We're humanity. This is Earth, our homeworld. And we've been asleep for a very long time." She gestured for them to follow her to the common area. Once everyone was seated, she began to explain. Her words were calm and measured, but the story she told was anything but simple. Humanity had been explorers once. They had reached for the stars with enthusiasm and hope. They had made contact with dozens of young species, shared their technology, and tried to help. But everywhere they went, chaos followed. Not because they were cruel, but because they were too good at everything. Human adaptability had no equal. They learned faster, fought harder, and solved problems in ways others couldn't imagine. Young civilizations that met them felt inadequate. Some became hostile. Others grew dependent. Wars broke out over human technology and human attention. Entire species nearly destroyed themselves trying to match human achievements. "We realized we were poison," Jaiwan said quietly. "Not intentionally, but the effect was the same. The galaxy wasn't ready for us. Young species needed time to develop their own identities, their own strengths, without being overshadowed by humanity." "So you left," Daehoon said. "We did more than that. We voted to hibernate. Every human, everywhere. We built the warning buoys to keep others away. We set systems to wake us after 10,000 years. Time enough for the galaxy to mature." Minji leaned forward. "But, why wake up now? The 10,000 years are up, but you could have kept sleeping." Jaiwan's expression darkened. "Because we saw them. The Vesprin swarm. Our deep space sensors detected them 6 months ago. They're coming, and the Confederation doesn't even know they exist." She activated a holographic display showing the massive fleet at the galaxy's edge. Billions of bioorganic ships moving in perfect formation. They're a hive mind. They consume entire civilizations. We've seen their kind before, in other galaxies. If they reach Confederation space, it will be a slaughter. "How do you know all this?" Daehoon demanded. "Because humanity has been watching the entire time we were asleep. Our sensors, our monitoring stations, our automated defense systems. They never slept. We needed to know if our sacrifice was worth it." Jaiwan looked at each of them in turn. And it was. The Confederation is beautiful. 7 species working together in peace. You've built something wonderful. But, now it's in danger, and you don't have the weapons to protect it. "And you do?" Hyun-woo asked. "We do. We spent 1,000 years preparing for this before we went to sleep. We built weapons we hoped we'd never need. We trained for scenarios we prayed would never happen. And, now it's time to use them." Daehoon stood up, anger flashing in his eyes. "You expect us to just trust you? You've been hiding here for 10,000 years, and now you show up with advanced weapons claiming to be saviors?" Jaiwan didn't flinch. "No, Commander. I expect you to be skeptical. I expect you to warn your people. I expect you to prepare for war, because that's what's coming. Whether you trust us or not doesn't change the fact that in 6 months, the swarm will be here. The only question is whether we'll fight them together or die separately." She handed him a data chip. "This contains everything. Our fleet specifications, defensive strategies, sensor readings of the swarm, and our proposal for cooperation. Take it to your leaders. Let them decide. Jaiwan stood and walked back toward the airlock. Before she left, she turned one last time. The warning buoys were never meant to protect the galaxy from us, Commander. They were meant to protect us from ourselves until the galaxy was ready for what was coming. That time is now. The Confederation Council chamber was in chaos. High Chancellor Taewon stood at the center podium, trying to maintain order as representatives from 7 species shouted over each other. News of the humans had spread faster than anyone could have controlled. Fear was spreading even faster. They're a myth, someone shouted. Stories we tell children. I have the sensor data, Taewon replied coldly. Commander Daehoon's report is clear. They're real, and they have technology that makes our fleet look like toys. A representative from the Kellner species stood up. Then, we should destroy them now, before they become a threat. We outnumber them. Do we? Taewon pulled up a holographic display. Our best analysts have reviewed the data. One human dreadnought has more firepower than an entire Confederation battle group. They have defense stations that could hold off our entire fleet. And, those are just the things we can see. The room fell silent. The weight of that statement settled over everyone like a heavy blanket. What do they want? Another representative asked. That's what we're about to find out, Taewon said. They've requested permission to send an ambassador. The human ship arrived 3 days later. It was sleek and graceful, smaller than any military vessel but somehow more intimidating. It landed at the Confederation capital without asking for docking clearance. The message was clear, they didn't need permission. Ambassador Suyin stepped off the ship wearing a simple gray suit. She was older than Jaiwan, with silver hair and eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. She walked into the council chamber like she owned it, confident but not arrogant. Thank you for seeing me, she said, her voice carrying easily across the vast room. I know you're frightened. You should be. Not of us, but of what's coming. She activated her own holographic display, showing the Veskran swarm in detail. The images were horrifying. Bioorganic ships that grew and adapted, consuming resources and technology from everything they destroyed. Planets stripped bare. Civilizations erased. Nothing left behind but empty worlds. This is what destroyed the Andralis Collective in the Outer Rim, 3,000 years ago, Suyin explained. We found their remains when we were exploring. 15 billion people, gone in less than a year. The swarm doesn't negotiate. It doesn't retreat. It only consumes. How do you know it's coming here? Taewon demanded. Because we've been watching it for 6 months. Our deep space sensors detected them when they entered this galaxy. They move slowly, but they never stop. They're currently 6 months away from your outer colonies. Suyin met his gaze steadily. In 6 months, they'll hit the edge of Confederation space. In 8 months, they'll reach your core worlds. The room erupted in angry voices again. Some called her a liar. Others demanded proof. A few simply sat in stunned silence. Why should we believe you? Someone shouted. You show up after 10,000 years with a convenient threat that only you can see. Suyin pulled out a data chip identical to the one Jaiwan had given Daehoon. This contains all our sensor data, going back 6 months. Every reading, every analysis, every projection. Give it to your scientists. Let them verify it independently. She tossed the chip to Taewon. You'll find we're telling the truth. And, if we do? Taewon asked quietly. What then? Then, you'll have a choice. Try to fight them alone and lose, or accept our help and maybe survive. Suyin's expression softened slightly. I know you don't trust us. I wouldn't either. But, humanity didn't wake up to conquer you. We woke up to protect you. Why? The question came from the back of the room. Why would you protect us? Because we failed you once already, Suyin said, and, for the first time, emotion cracked through her calm exterior. 10,000 years ago, we tried to help young civilizations, and, we nearly destroyed them through our own arrogance. We thought we were being helpful. We thought our technology and knowledge would lift everyone up. But, we were wrong. We were too much, too fast, too overwhelming. She walked slowly around the room, making eye contact with each representative. So we left. We chose to remove ourselves from the galaxy rather than continue causing harm. We slept so you could grow without our shadow hanging over you. And, you did grow. You built something beautiful. 7 species working together, at peace. It's everything we hoped for. But, now there's a threat you can't handle alone, Suyin continued. And, we have a chance to do what we should have done 10,000 years ago. Not dominate. Not dictate. Not overwhelm. Just stand beside you and, help you survive. Taewon studied the data chip in his hand. And, after? If we survive this swarm, what happens then? Do you stay? Do you take over? We stay, Suyin said firmly. But, as equals. We share our technology, but, slowly, at a pace you can absorb. We offer advice, but, the decisions remain yours. We help build defenses, but, you command them. We made the mistake of trying to lead once before. This time, we'll be content to be partners. While the politicians debated, Commander Daehoon found himself reassigned to Confederation intelligence. Analyst Juno was waiting for him with a report that made Daehoon's stomach turn. I analyzed the scan they did of your ship, Juno explained, his voice shaking slightly. Commander, they didn't just scan your vessel. They scanned everything. Your biological structure, your crew's DNA, your species' vulnerabilities. In the 3 seconds they had you locked down, they calculated 17 different ways to defeat our entire fleet. Why are you telling me this? Daehoon asked. Because of what they did next. Juno pulled up another file. After calculating all those attack strategies, they filed a report. It says, species assessment, non-hostile. Intervention unnecessary. Commander, they chose not to hurt us. They had you completely at their mercy, and, they just, let you go. Daehoon stared at the report. The implications were terrifying. If the humans could do that to a military vessel in seconds, what could they do to the entire Confederation? There's more, Juno continued. I cross-referenced their technology with our historical databases. Old legends, myths, stories that nobody believed. Commander, they're all true. Every story about the sleeping giants, about the species that walked among the stars and caused chaos wherever they went. It was all real. But, they left, Daehoon said softly. They chose to leave rather than dominate us. Yes. And, that's what scares me most. Juno looked at him with haunted eyes. A species that powerful, that advanced, and, they chose to sleep for 10,000 years rather than rule. What kind of people does that? Back in the council chamber, Taewon finally spoke. We'll verify your data. Our scientists will analyze everything. If the swarm is real, we'll consider your offer of assistance. But, understand this, Ambassador. We will not trade one master for another. Suyin nodded. We don't want to be your masters, Chancellor. We just want a chance to be your friends. She walked toward the exit, then, paused. Oh, and, Chancellor. You have about 3 days to verify the data before the swarm hits your first outer colony. I'd suggest you work quickly. She left the chamber in silence. Tae-won looked down at the data chip, knowing that everything was about to change. The galaxy had lived in peace for thousands of years. That peace was about to end. 3 days later, the reports came in. Every scientist who analyzed the data reached the same conclusion. The swarm was real, it was massive, and it was coming. The Confederation had a choice to make, and they had less than 6 months to make it. Tae-won called an emergency session. The humans were telling the truth. The threat is real. He looked around at the frightened faces. I'm recommending we accept their offer of alliance. Does anyone object? Nobody did. Fear had finally overcome pride. The first colony died in silence. One moment it was there, home to 3 million people. The next moment, it was gone. No distress call. No warning. Just silence. When the Confederation fleet arrived to investigate, they found nothing but empty buildings and dead soil. The Veskran swarm had consumed everything biological. Plants, animals, people. Even bacteria. The planet was sterile, lifeless, like a tomb. Get High Chancellor Tae-won on the line, the fleet commander ordered. Tell him the humans were right. The swarm is here. By the time the message reached the capital, 2 more colonies had gone silent. The swarm was moving faster than predicted, adapting its strategy with each world it consumed. Panic spread through Confederation space like wildfire. Refugees flooded the transit lanes, desperately trying to reach the core worlds. Markets crashed. Governments struggled to maintain order. Tae-won stood in the war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing the spreading disaster. Each red dot represented a world under attack or already lost. There were too many red dots. Where's the Confederation fleet? He demanded. Engaging the swarm at the Kellner system, Admiral Juno reported. He was the same analyst who had studied the human scans, recently promoted when the old military command proved unable to adapt to the new threat. Early reports are not good, sir. The reports came in over the next few hours. The Confederation fleet had engaged a swarm formation of roughly 10,000 bioships. The battle had lasted 17 minutes before the Confederation forces retreated. They had destroyed 3 enemy vessels. The swarm had destroyed 47 Confederation ships. Their hulls adapt, Juno explained, his voice tight. We hit them with plasma cannons, and, by the 3rd shot, their armor had evolved to resist. We switched to kinetic weapons, same result. They learn from every attack and evolve their defenses in real time. What about their weaknesses? Tae-won asked. If they have any, we haven't found them yet. That's when the human fleet arrived. They dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kellner system without warning. No advance notice. No coordination with Confederation forces. They just appeared, ready for war. Captain Jaiwan commanded the carrier Phoenix Wing, a massive vessel that dwarfed even the largest Confederation dreadnoughts. Around her, hundreds of human ships formed perfect attack formations. Each ship knew its role. Each crew had trained for this exact scenario. All ships, this is Phoenix Wing Actual, Jaiwan transmitted on an open channel. We are engaging the swarm. Confederation forces, fall back and regroup. Let us show you how this is done. The human fleet moved forward like a living thing. Destroyers led the charge, fast and aggressive. Behind them, cruisers provided covering fire. And, above it all, the carriers launched wave after wave of fighters. The swarm responded immediately, turning its attention to this new threat. Bioships swarmed toward the human fleet, their organic weapons already adapting to target the new enemy. But, the humans had planned for this. Commander Borum led the fighter wing from Phoenix Wing. She had been a pilot before the long sleep, back when humanity still fought wars among themselves. She had forgotten more about combat than most species ever learned. All wings, execute pattern Delta 7, she ordered. Hit them fast, hit them hard, and don't stay in one place. The fighters moved like schools of fish, impossible to predict. They struck from unexpected angles, using weapons that changed frequency with every shot. The swarm's adaptive defenses couldn't keep up because the humans never used the same tactic twice. On the ground, Sergeant Hayen commanded the Vanguard forces. These were humanity's elite soldiers, trained to fight in any environment against any enemy. When a swarm landing force touched down on Kellner's third moon, Hayen's team was waiting. "Remember your training," she told her squad. "The swarm is fast and deadly, but it's predictable. It always goes for biomass first. Use that against it." The battle on the moon was brutal. Swarm creatures were nightmarish things, all claws and teeth and adaptive biology. But the Vanguard had fought worse. They used the terrain, set traps, and forced the swarm to fight on human terms. When the smoke cleared, the moon was secure. In orbit, the naval battle continued. Engineer Yunho worked frantically aboard the dreadnought Indomitable, rerouting power and adjusting systems on the fly. The ship was taking a beating from swarm weapons, but Yunho kept it fighting. "Shields at 40%, someone called out. "Redirect power from non-essential systems," Yunho ordered. "Life support stays at 50%. We can breathe less if it means we can shoot more." Ship Captain Miho made a decision that would be studied in military academies for generations. His cruiser was badly damaged, shields failing, engines dying. But he was close to the swarm's command ship, a massive biovessel that coordinated the entire enemy fleet. "All hands, abandon ship," he ordered calmly. "Get to the escape pods. I'm taking this ship in." "Sir, you'll die," his first officer protested. "Probably," Miho agreed. "But I'm taking that command ship with me. Get out." "That's an order." He waited until the last escape pod launched, then aimed his dying ship directly at the swarm command vessel. The cruiser's engines screamed as he pushed them beyond their limits. The swarm tried to shoot him down, but it was too late. The impact was spectacular. Miho's ship tore through the command vessel's hull, its reactor breaching at the perfect moment. The explosion consumed both ships, and, suddenly, the swarm fleet lost its coordination. Ships drifted aimlessly, their hive-mind connection severed. "All units, concentrate fire," Jaiwan ordered. "Take them down while they're confused." The human fleet struck with precision and fury. Within an hour, the swarm presence in the Kellner system was destroyed. Victory, but at a terrible cost. Miho's ship was gone. Dozens of fighters hadn't returned. The Indomitable was so badly damaged it could barely move. But they had won. For the first time since the swarm arrived, someone had won. Daehoon watched the battle from a Confederation observation post, his mind struggling to process what he had witnessed. The humans fought differently than any species he had ever seen. They were aggressive but not reckless. Creative but disciplined. And, above all, they adapted even faster than the swarm. Captain Jaiwan's face appeared on his communication screen. She looked exhausted, her uniform torn and bloody. "Commander Daehoon. We're transmitting our battle data to all Confederation forces. Study it. Learn from it. Because this was just one battle. The swarm has billions more ships, and they're learning too. How do we fight something like that?" Daehoon asked. "Together," Jaiwan replied simply. "Your people have courage. We have experience. Combine them, and we have a chance." Back on Earth, Ambassador Suyin addressed the Confederation Council again. This time, nobody questioned her. Nobody called her a liar. They had all seen the battle reports. "This is just the beginning," she warned. "The swarm we defeated at Kellner was a scouting force. The main fleet is still coming. When it arrives, we'll face billions of ships, not thousands. The only way we survive is if we fight as one." Tae-won stood up. "What do you need from us?" "Everything," Suyin said honestly. "We need your ships, your soldiers, your workers, your scientists. We need every able body and every sharp mind. We need you to trust us with your defenses and your lives. And, most of all, we need you to believe that together, we can win." "And, can we?" Tae-won asked. "Can we really win?" Suyin was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know," she admitted. "The swarm is larger than anything humanity has ever faced. But, I know this, if we give up now, we've already lost. If we fight, we at least have a chance. And, sometimes, a chance is all you need." The council voted unanimously to commit everything to the war effort. The Confederation and humanity would stand together. They would share technology, coordinate strategies, and train side by side. And, when the main swarm fleet arrived, they would face it as allies. In 3 months, the largest battle in galactic history would begin. Both sides were preparing. Both sides knew that the outcome would determine the fate of every living thing in the galaxy. The Veskran swarm had never been stopped before. But, then, again, they had never faced humanity before. The combined fleet assembled at the Nexus Gate, a strategic point where 7 major trade routes intersected. It was the perfect place to make a stand. If the swarm got past them here, they would have clear access to the core worlds of the Confederation. Admiral Jihun stood on the bridge of the human flagship Unity, looking at the greatest armada ever assembled. 5,000 Confederation vessels stood shoulder to shoulder with 3,000 human ships. 8 species, working together for the first time in history, all united by one goal: survival. Daehoon was there too, commanding a Confederation battle group that had been integrated into the human fleet structure. It had been strange at first, taking orders from human tactical officers. But, after 3 months of joint training, he had learned to trust their judgment. They had been fighting wars when his species was still learning to build fire. "All ships report ready," Captain Borum announced from her position at Tactical. She had been promoted after the Kellner battle, her fighter pilot skills now directing entire squadrons. Swarm fleet detected at the edge of sensor range. Time until contact, 2 hours. 2 hours to wait. 2 hours to wonder if they were ready. 2 hours to think about everything they stood to lose. Jaiwan walked through the ship's corridors, checking on her crew. She stopped to talk with young pilot Nari, who was running final checks on her fighter. The girl was barely 20, too young to remember the old wars, too young to understand what humanity had been before the long sleep. "Scared?" Jaiwan asked. "Terrified," Nari admitted. "But, I'll do my job. That's all anyone can ask." Jaiwan put a hand on her shoulder. "You know why we're here, right? Why we chose to wake up? To protect the galaxy." "No." "Well, yes, but that's not the whole truth." Jaiwan smiled sadly. "We're here to prove that we can be better. That we can use our strength to help instead of harm. Every battle we fight, every person we save, that's proof that our choice 10,000 years ago was right." In the medical bay, Dr. Kyung-soo prepared for casualties. He had spent the last 3 months studying Confederation biology, learning how to treat species he had never seen before. His human medical knowledge combined with Confederation medical databases made him one of the most versatile doctors in the fleet. "How many casualties are we expecting?" his assistant asked nervously. "Too many," Kyung-soo replied. "But, we'll save everyone we can. That's our job." Engineer Yunho worked in the engine room of the Indomitable. The dreadnought had been repaired after the Kellner battle, upgraded with a combination of human and Confederation technology. It was stronger now, tougher, ready for what was coming. Power levels are optimal, he reported. Weapon systems charged. Shields at maximum. We're as ready as we'll ever be. The swarm arrived exactly on schedule. Sensors detected them first, a wall of contacts so dense it looked like space itself was turning black. Billions of bioships, all moving in perfect coordination, driven by a single hive-mind intelligence that spanned the entire fleet. Here we go, Admiral Jehun said quietly. All ships, this is Unity Actual. You've trained for this. You know your roles. Trust your training, trust your crews, and trust the person fighting beside you. Humanity and the Confederation, standing together. Let's show the swarm what that means. The battle began with long-range fire. Human railguns launched projectiles at relativistic speeds while Confederation plasma cannons added their fury. The swarm responded with bioorganic weapons that could track targets across thousands of kilometers. Space lit up with explosions and energy discharges. Nari launched from the Unity along with 500 other fighters. The plan was simple: attack the swarm's command nodes, disrupt their coordination, force them to fight as individuals instead of as a unified force. Simple, but not easy. Red Squadron, form up on me, she transmitted. We're going for the big one. The big one was a swarm supercapital, a bioship the size of a moon that served as a regional command hub. Taking it down wouldn't destroy the swarm, but it would blind them in this sector. Nari's fighter dodged through a storm of enemy fire, her reflexes honed by 3 months of constant training. A Confederation pilot named Kelran flew on her wing, his ship keeping perfect formation. Human Nari, I have missiles locked on target. Wait for my mark, Nari replied. We need to hit it all at once. They dove toward the supercapital, enemy fire getting thicker with every second. 3 fighters from their squadron were destroyed. Then, 5 more. But the survivors pressed on, determined to complete their mission. Now! Nari shouted. Fire everything. Hundreds of missiles streaked toward the supercapital, overwhelming its adaptive defenses. The bioship tried to evolve resistance, but it was too late. Explosions rippled across its hull, and the massive vessel began to break apart. Target destroyed, someone cheered over the comm, the swarm is losing coordination in this sector. But the victory was short-lived. A piece of debris struck Nari's fighter, tearing through her wing. Systems failed. Her ship tumbled out of control, spinning toward a Confederation cruiser that couldn't maneuver in time. Eject! Kelran shouted. Nari, eject! Can't, she replied, her voice strangely calm. My canopy is jammed. But, I can still fly. That cruiser has 5,000 people aboard. I'm not letting them die. She used her fighter's emergency thrusters, pushing her dying ship away from the cruiser. The maneuver sent her directly into a swarm formation. Her fighter exploded, taking 3 enemy vessels with it. She never heard the cheers from the Confederation crew she had saved. The main battle was brutal. Ships died by the hundreds. Human dreadnoughts traded fire with swarm leviathans at point-blank range. Confederation cruisers formed defensive walls to protect damaged vessels. And, through it all, people fought and bled and died together. Aboard the Indomitable, Yunho fought to keep his ship running. A swarm boarding party had breached the hull, bioorganic creatures flooding through the corridors. He sealed himself in the engine room, rerouting power to critical systems even as he heard fighting outside the door. Bridge, this is engineering, he transmitted. I'm redirecting all power to weapons. You'll have one shot at full power. Make it count. Yunho, you'll lose life support, Jaiwan's voice replied. You'll die down there. Then, I'll die doing my job, Yunho said. Take the shot, Captain. Win this battle. That's all that matters. The Indomitable's main cannon charged to levels that should have been impossible. The targeting system locked onto the swarm's central command nexus, a massive biostructure that coordinated billions of ships. The shot had to be perfect. They wouldn't get another chance. Jaiwan hesitated only for a second, thinking of Yunho sacrificing himself below. Then, she gave the order. Fire. The beam that lanced out from the Indomitable was pure destruction. It punched through the swarm's command nexus like it wasn't there, shattering the structure and sending debris spinning in all directions. The effect on the swarm fleet was immediate. Ships stopped coordinating. The hive mind fragmented. What had been a unified force became billions of confused individuals. All ships, concentrate fire. Admiral Jihun ordered. Hit them while they're disorganized. The combined fleet struck with everything they had. Human weapons that changed frequency with every shot. Confederation tactics that the swarm had never encountered. 8 species fighting as one, each bringing their unique strengths to the battle. Dr. Kyung-soo worked without rest, treating wounded from a dozen species. He saved a Confederation soldier who had lost 3 limbs. He stabilized a human pilot with burns across half her body. He held the hand of a dying engineer, human or alien, he wasn't sure anymore, as life slipped away. The battle raged for 3 days. 3 days of constant fighting, of ships dying and people sacrificing themselves. The swarm kept coming, wave after wave, but, slowly, gradually, the combined fleet pushed them back. On the 4th day, the swarm began to retreat. Not destroyed, but beaten. They had lost too many ships, too many command nodes. The hive mind made a calculation, this galaxy was too well defended. Better to withdraw and find easier prey elsewhere. The combined fleet watched the swarm flee, too exhausted to celebrate. They had won, but the cost was staggering. 2,000 ships destroyed. Millions dead. Heroes like Nari and Yunho, who had given everything for victory. Jaiwan stood in the memorial service a week later, surrounded by humans and aliens alike. They mourned together, honored their dead together, and promised to remember together. Ambassador Suyin addressed the Confederation Council one final time. Taewon looked older now, worn down by the weight of leadership during war. But, he was still standing, still fighting for his people. We won, Suyin said simply. Together, we did what neither of us could have done alone. The swarm is gone. The galaxy is safe, for now. What happens now? Taewon asked. You've proven your worth. You've saved us all. Will you leave again? No, Suyin replied. We're home now. This galaxy is our home, just as it's yours. We'll stay, if you'll have us. Not as masters. Not as saviors. Just as partners. And, your technology. We'll share it, but, carefully. We learned our lesson 10,000 years ago. We won't overwhelm you again. We'll teach, but, let you grow at your own pace. We'll help build defenses, but, you'll command them. We'll offer advice, but, you'll make the decisions. Taewon extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship. Suyin took it, and, in that moment, a new era began. 10 years passed. The galaxy transformed. Human technology integrated slowly into Confederation society. Joint colonies thrived on worlds that neither species could have settled alone. The Galactic Defense Initiative, commanded by Admiral Juno with Captain Borum as his tactical officer, patrolled the galactic rim, watching for new threats. Daehoon stood with Jaiwan on a joint defense station, watching construction crews build the next generation of warships. Human engineers worked alongside Confederation workers, sharing knowledge and building friendship. Do you think the galaxy is ready for humanity? Jaiwan asked. Daehoon smiled. No. But, maybe that's not the right question. Maybe the question is whether humanity is ready for us. And, are we? I think we're finding out together, Daehoon replied. And, I think that's exactly how it should be. In deep space, the ancient monitoring stations that humanity had built 10,000 years ago continued their watch. The long sleep was over. The galaxy remembered. And, humanity stood ready, not as conquerors, but, as guardians. The warning had been clear, wake them only when the darkness comes. The darkness had come, and, humanity had answered. Now they stood watch together, 8 species united, ready for whatever challenges the future might bring. The story of humanity's long sleep would be told for generations. Not as a tale of domination, but as a reminder that true strength lies not in power, but in knowing when to use it and when to hold back. The galaxy had grown during humanity's absence. Now, together, they would grow even stronger. And, somewhere in the void, the universe watched and waited to see what this unlikely alliance would accomplish next.